prophecy of Star Wars. All of the things in the programming and the media and entertainment industry have been satanically led to be able to flip a narrative of things that will occur in the end times. The story of Star Wars and the things about heavenly battles and coming into different planets with rebels who dress in like sackcloth-like dressing and lasers and all of these technologies, that holograms, all of these type things that are shared, okay, with flying saucers and so forth. These are all a prophetic foreshadow of preparing people for their narrative that they want to share by Satan's influence. And what we see in the Bible prophecy is that the Bible prophecy talks about Star Wars itself, which is actually the alien disclosure of Satan and his angels coming into earth to help the beasts and the kings of the earth. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 and 8 talks about this. It can be found in the Bible prophecy. It says, "And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven." So let's make here clear first. In verse 7, it says a war in heaven. Well, where are the heavens? The heavens are in space. That's the heavens. And that's where the stars are. And the heavens are stars. And there's a Star Wars occurring right here in this verse. The term here used is definitely using about a prophetic foreshadow of what occurs in the heavenlies, in outer space, that John could see. And when we see this, we look to the dragon known as the devil. His tail drags down with him a third of the stars, which is a third of the angels, thrown to earth with Satan. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 3, it says, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads." So we see here there's a great red dragon, which is Satan. Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, it says, "And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth." So we have third part of the stars of heaven coming down to earth. "And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it were born." And here we see that the devil's tail drags a third part of the stars of heaven down to earth. And we look again at this verse, and we see that it is Satan's angels with him that are the stars of heaven. We notice that when we look at this. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. "And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels." So what we see here is that Michael, the archangel, and his angels are fighting with the devil and the devil's angels, a third part of the angels that are in heaven. And they're thrown down to earth. And this is the time that Michael, the prince of the people, will stand up during that portion of the preparation for the Great Tribulation. So when the devil's thrown down, he begins to empower the beast and the false prophet and persecutes for those 1260 days. We see Christ revealing the 7 angels or the 7 stars in his hand. It says here, Revelation chapter 1, verse 20, "The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the 7 angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches." So we know that it says that the stars of heaven are dragged down to earth by the devil's tail. Let's look at this. Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, it says, "And his tail, the devil's tail, drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to earth." So where are the stars located? Let's look. Up into the heavens, in outer space, we see stars, right? Shimmering, bright stars, okay? And that is where the war in heaven is seen. It is literally Star Wars in heaven. And those stars, which are angels, that are zipping around in UFOs, have dominion over the earth. They've had dominion with the devil and his angels over the earth for a long time. And they're going to be kicked out of outer space and come down to earth and deceive man and beguile mankind. Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. "And the dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, and he was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So we notice here it says that great red dragon that is seen in the heavens is the serpent of old. So where's the serpent of old? He was in the garden, right? He was in garden tempting mankind. Mankind got kicked out of Eden, right? And he got dominion over the earth through that temptation. Adam had dominion over the earth. Adam forfeited that dominion by submitting to the devil. The devil got control over the earth with his angels. So what we see here is this war in heaven, better known as Star Wars. And this is why the Hollywood has been programming people for a long time, influencing people with the narratives for the earth for the last generation to prepare people for this alien disclosure which will occur, which is Satan and his angels being revealed to mankind. Such movies as Close Encounter of the Third Kind, E.T., Star Wars, various other programs or mind-controlling program in order to bring the public into a disclosure. And this is why we see recently with the Pentagon UFO disclosure projects and all of these plans with Space Force being set up by the president. The AARO is an online tool for reporting government activity on UAPs. They no longer call them UFOs. They call them UAPs. And what's going to eventually occur is that Satan and his angels are going to come down as a portion of a military disclosure project. That's why the Pentagon's launching the UFO reporting forms. The AARO.mil is their website. The AARO is the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. It's an office within the United States Office of Secretary of Defense that investigates the flying objects, UFOs. These are all satanic preparations for the kings of the earth to work with the UFOs, which are Satan and his angels. All of them. This is all a plan for that. And that's what happens in the end times. Is the devil and his angels work with the military and the U.S. government and the other G7 nations and the other kings of the earth to control over the world, right? To get power over the world. And then they take the technology and they try to fight Christ. Revelation chapter 19, verse 19 talks about that. It says, "And I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army." And so these armies that are gathered are using the power of the devil and his angels with the UFO technologies. They're going to see these free energy devices and zero-point energy technologies being revealed and all of these other things that occur with military operations. They're going to disclose this stuff. And they're going to say that these are friendly aliens, are here to help us, and so forth. They're going to deceive the earth. They're going to trick mankind. And it's going to be just like it was in ancient Babylon. It's going to look exactly the same from Jerusalem. It's going to have the king of Babylon. It's going to have the false prophet. And it's going to have the devil, right? Mushusu dragon. And it's going to have Nebo, his announcer. And it's going to have Marduk, right? Baal, the king of Babylon. It's the same thing. And what did they have? They had the Anunnaki. They had their little creatures, right? And they're creatures from space. And this is exactly what we're going to see in the end times with these three unclean spirits. Watch this. Revelation chapter 16, verse 13 and 14 says, "And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth into the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them together to battle of that great day of God Almighty." So we see these three unclean spirits like frogs. Now watch this. All of the spiritual influence about the imagery of aliens, if you notice now, over the last 10 years, has began to be promoted and presented as three frog-like beings. And you always see three of them together. You'll see that they got these big black eyes. They kind of look reptoid. They kind of look like little frogs. They have three of them together, and they have their little reptoid-looking appearance. Right? This is what's going on. You can go through these images forever. They're just endless. There's three of them. Always three little aliens. Three little frogs. They look exactly like frogs, right? These unclean spirits like frogs. And this is what's going to occur. And you see them empowering the beast and the false prophet and deceiving the whole world. Look at this. Revelation chapter 16, verse 13. "And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet." So we have three unclean spirits like frogs, right? These are three aliens that look like frogs, right? "For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth into the kings of the earth and the whole world." To what? To gather them to battle of that great day of God Almighty. What day is that? That is the day of the Lord. That is the day that they're going to try to fight Christ. And look at this. Isn't it interesting that Aleister Crowley, a Satanist, was in his divination and in his occultations and trying to enchant and bring forth spirits and demons, that he created images and shown what he drew and that he conjured up? Ironically, you can see this in his journal, Channeling of Demons. In the profile of Aleister Crowley, you can see Edward Alexander Crowley was an English occultist, ceremonial magician, poet, novelist, mountaineer, and painter. But through their rituals, which Crowley called the Amalantra workings, he believed that they were contacted by a preternatural entity named Lamb, and the relationship soon ended, according to their talkings. But they contacted aliens or demons, right, that are presented here, and they look exactly the same thing. And what's interesting is the encounters that they talk about, like Barney and Betty Hill. Okay, in their papers, they show like similar likeness to their drawings. Watch this. From David G. Baker, 1967, about the alien, the artworks of David Baker and Barney Hill papers we see in 2006 MC from Milne Special Collections and Archives, University of New Hampshire Library in Durham. Okay, the aliens in focus is staring at the viewer, and it feels like you are looking through the point of view of the hills themselves. Through commissioning David Baker for a painting, Betty and Barney Hill successfully disturbed an interest in aliens and UFOs, providing one of the depictions we think of most synonymously with the phrase alien. And they're drawing the same type thing. And this is what we got, one that's actually Aleister Crowley, a magician who's conjuring up through demonic and satanic rituals, conjuring up demons, and there comes Lamb, right? And then you have Betty and Barney Hill and their encounters with a guy doing a painting on their thing for one alien that looks exactly like Lamb too, and they look like the unclean spirits, like frogs. These are the same things that are occurring throughout this time. So what you're going to see in these last days, and a part of this alien disclosure, all the stuff that's been prepared, it's programmed by the devil, it's influenced by the synagogue of Satan, right, who runs Hollywood. And all of this stuff is a part of a plan, a bigger plan. All of the satellites being shot up and launched for the brain chips and for the AI technology to control over the grid by Starlink and all of these people, digital coins, all of this stuff is for tracking, tracing, all of this stuff's for a complete lockdown of the Earth grid through outer space. And this is why Space Force was set up. All of this stuff is planned, all of it. And it's all written in the prophecy in the end days about the Star Wars, which is the war in heaven that occurs. And this is the prophecy of Star Wars.